maybe they have a social team that makes it a little bit more fun for them, but it's all about number one, getting eyeballs on your content. So you're going to cast a wider net if you're doing video because people are going to see something that maybe you didn't put out before or you can't really explain in words. And I'll give you an example, even at work. We spend all this time crafting an email and we're putting everything into words when we could have just put a Loom recording in that email and just explained it in words. That's why a lot of people will say, just pick up the phone and explain it to someone.
So, hi guys, this is Eamon once again, and today we have Sara Berry with us, who is the founder of Out of Studio. And she also helps founders actually create very interesting videos online. So, we have an amazing topic to talk about, that is how to create impactful videos for your personal brand. So, all over to you, Sarah. First of all, I want to ask you, how did you actually come up with this idea of creating videos for people?
Yeah, great question. So I had been creating videos in the corporate space for corporate learning for a really long time. And typically corporate videos are really long. So I was like, how can we make them shorter and more impactful? You probably know, most people know you sit through a corporate learning and it's really boring and long. And so my thought process was, how can we make them shorter? Number one, going to remember it later. And I actually started talking more on LinkedIn about this and shifted it more towards founders when that's who I was meeting. So my old job or my old world was more in the corporate space, whereas once I started talking online, it kind of opened my world into other founders and people just like me who had been experiencing the same things of, I want to get on video, I want to talk about my company and what I do and all these great things, but how do I actually take that leap? Because it can be scary.
That's nice. So, what do you think is the first hesitation that people face when it comes to videos? Because you don't see that much video, especially on LinkedIn. A lot of people do not make videos, they make carousels and text content. So, why do people actually hesitate?
I think it's an internal thing, it's a mindset thing. A lot of people think originally that it's a tools or skills thing. I'll tell you the most common questions I get are what type of lighting or what kind of equipment, which you shouldn't have to worry about that in the beginning. If you're brand new, that is the least of your worries. And then another question that I get commonly is, what is the best app for editing? And I laugh because it's the best app. You shouldn't even be worried about that as a beginner.
Yeah.
If you can't get past the mindset of getting yourself on video, then it doesn't matter about the apps. It doesn't matter about the skills that you are building. You have to get past the mindset first. So I do think it's internal. I think that people worry about, especially on LinkedIn, what their old coworkers are going to think of them, what their old boss is going to see, how they come across, if they're going to get trolls, which you really don't get that on LinkedIn, at least not compared to other sites. So I think there's a lot of worry and anxiety about what if, and that's just, I think that is all demolished when you actually start creating videos, putting them out there and see that the world didn't change, everything stayed the same, you're fine, and you got your voice out there, which is a great
Yeah.
thing.
That's amazing. So a lot of founders, they also think that, video content is not very important. And they do not actually even post on LinkedIn. A lot of founders are there that don't want to post on LinkedIn. They don't even want to show their face. So what do you think is the importance of especially video content for founders?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great too. A lot of people look at it as just a nice to have
Yeah.
and instead of a need to have. So they think of it as a tool that maybe, the younger crowd can get into or that it's not important to them, especially if they have a serious business. But there's plenty of serious businesses out there that have, maybe they have a social team that makes it a little bit more fun for them. But it's all about number one, getting eyeballs on your content. So you're going to cast a wider net if you're doing video because people are going to see something that maybe you didn't put out before or you can't really explain in words. And I'll give you an example, even at work. We spend all this time crafting an email and we're putting everything into words when we could have just put a Loom recording in that email and just explained it in words. That's why a lot of people will say, just pick up the phone and explain it to someone. Sort of live version of a person explaining a concept or maybe all about their business or how they can help you is so much more impactful than the written word. And there's definitely a place for the written word. I think text posts can be very impactful on LinkedIn, and so can carousels. But yeah, mixing up your strategy, why not? It will build trust. People will feel like they know you. You do it enough times, you do it consistently. And consistently doesn't mean every day, it doesn't mean every week. It just means your message is similar each time, and people know how they feel when they walk away from a video of yours. And yeah, they'll feel like they know you, even if you don't know them and you've never met
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So there's this ongoing debate on LinkedIn that videos do not get that amount of impressions or engagement as compared to carousels and text content and all of that. So do you actually believe that as well? And if that is so, then what can people actually do to improve their video content?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So, I actually have a laundry list of reactions to this because I sort of compiled my thoughts about it because I kept hearing it. Number one, video works on every single website. Do we really think that LinkedIn is the only website in the entirety of the internet where video doesn't work? Of course it works, but it works for the reasons that people are not thinking of. So people want to go viral because they think that's the goal. That's not the goal. If this were TikTok in 2020, I would say, heck yes, go viral, do it. But that has come and gone. That ship has sailed. So when we're doing video, it's more for the quality aspect, the trust, and all those factors that I mentioned earlier. So number one, I think people have their sights set on the wrong thing. They're trying to go viral. They're trying to get as many uh, eyeballs, followers, sales. I don't even think it's sales. I think it's followers. I think people are focused on the vanity metrics when they say those things. And I will say that video feed LinkedIn came out with last year, and it was sort of inflating people's impressions. So I think people got the wrong idea because they would do a video, and if it got picked up in that LinkedIn video feed, it would go semi-viral, or you would feel like it was going viral. And then all of a sudden they rolled it back. I know it's not available in some countries. It's available here in the US still, but it's not so segregated where the video feed is separate. Now it's more embedded in your feed as you're scrolling through, which is a great thing. But I think people just got the wrong idea. It was like, everyone get on video now because the video feed, you got to capture this moment. And then it rolled back to reality, and people were like, oh, it's just getting the same amount or less. I'm noticing that a lot of people are discouraged by video now, which means there's less people doing video, which means actually now is the time to do it. Mine are getting great impressions again. Like they've gone back up from where they were before when they were kind of lowering earlier this year. So I would say they're probably leveling off and nothing is final. You know, things are going to always change and always evolve. And I think it's always a good opportunity to get
Yeah.
your face on camera, no matter
Mm.
what.
Yeah, I agree with that. So a lot of people they have this whole formula that we see on how to create LinkedIn captions where there's a hook, then there's a rehook, there's a body text, then there's a CTA. So does that follow for video content as well, or you can make video content any way you want?
Yeah, I think to an extent you can make video any way you want, but if you do want to follow a format, I think following the written format is a good starter because it's going to give you structure. I think the wrong thing to do is go into a video with no plan at all because you're going to start critiquing yourself and thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at video." Well, no, you just didn't have a plan. So you can have I would follow kind of like a story structure. Now, today, fast forward to today. So maybe the hook is, I used to be really scared to get on video, and then maybe the rehook is, but today I get on video weekly or something like that. And then you can explain what happened between those two things. So yes, you could absolutely follow the same format you would do for a written post. But I will say written posts and spoken posts are going to be totally different words because if you just take one of your old posts and try to read it like a script, you'll have to change it. It just doesn't, it would sound pretty cheesy and like you're reading.
That's right. So, what type of content, when it comes to video, especially, should founders be making? Should they go towards storytelling content, or there are a lot of people who I've seen they make complete, videos of memes as well. So, what type of content do founders make online?
Yeah, I think anything that's going to build trust and make people understand who you are as a person, I think stories are number one for any sort of
Yeah,
content. I think if you're telling a story, you are going to come across as relatable, you're going to come across as yourself. What type of stories are you telling when you're at a work lunch or
yeah,
you're meeting a client for the first time and you have a moment to get to know each other? It's those types of stories where they're still work friendly. They're not, some crazy thing you did on the weekend. It's just a nice story that they get to know you as the person and who's behind the brand. And that's the other thing too is it's not just the brand and the company name, it's the person behind it. So you want that sort of human aspect. You want the stories. You want them to know that there's a real person behind that brand. So
That-
stories number one, you can absolutely do how-tos and educational. Just know that those probably, unfortunately, will get the least engagement just because people may not have time. They'll be scrolling and they'll say, well, I don't have time to be educated right now, but I do have time to hear a story.
That's right. So
Yeah.
what do you think are the common mistakes that people make on videos? Because when it comes to LinkedIn, not everyone's video works. Yours might work, but other people who are making videos, they get demotivated when they don't get those impressions. So what mistakes do
Yeah.
you think people are making when it comes to video content?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, going in and not having a plan or a structure at all. If you're just totally unstructured and you're doing off the cuff, I don't think there's a problem with that. But if that's every single one of your videos, it will start to feel a little bit like TikTok. So knowing the platforms is a good idea. I think we all should be conscious of the fact that if you go on TikTok, it's more stream of consciousness. You can say whatever. It's more like an Instagram story. You're just talking to the camera casually. There may not even be a point to the story, but people are still listening because they're just scrolling and wasting time. They have time for it. Whereas on LinkedIn, they don't necessarily have time for it. So knowing that difference and then crafting your video to
Yeah.
appeal to that platform is best. People on LinkedIn, even though I said educational posts don't get as much impressions as a story, they'll still get engagement. They'll still get impressions for sure. So don't exclude it completely where it's all fluff, only fluff. You do want to have something of substance to stand on, because that will teach people how you help them or what you offer to the world, what your business stands
Yeah.
for. And then another mistake would probably be just focusing on the wrong things, virality, looking at the vanity metrics too much, and then giving up on video and saying video didn't work when you were just focused on the wrong thing. I see that a lot.
That's right. Yeah, I see that too. So, in the past, basically, LinkedIn was actually used for only jobs, for career jobs and all of that, to hire people or either to get recruited by a company. And then slowly, LinkedIn started changing. People started to become influencers, creators online. So, do you think that in the future, LinkedIn will also become somewhat like Instagram, TikTok? It's going to be completely pictorial based, and there's going to be a lot of video content because right now a lot of people are making text-based posts, they're casuals. But do you think in the future videos are going to be a thing on LinkedIn?
I think there's going to be choice to do whatever type of content you want, but I think LinkedIn is going, and there already is that choice, but I think
Yeah.
that LinkedIn is going to remain a professional platform. LinkedIn moves very slowly. So any innovation or changes that happen on LinkedIn typically happen very slowly. I've been on LinkedIn for a very long time, and it took a long time for people to even start talking on the feed in the first place. And if they did, it was just a job update or, I won this award or something like that. So it took a very long time, years, for people to actually start treating it like a social platform. And that may have started maybe around the pandemic. I'm sure it got even more so in the pandemic because people were working from home or maybe they were laid off or something and they had more time in their schedule to commit to it. So I do think that change is slow. That's why people perceive anytime the algorithm changes, everyone freaks out because it seems like a fast change all of a sudden out of nowhere. So yeah, I think it'll just continue to have more choice and more. Again, I think things will evolve. So maybe right now carousels are getting the best views or something. And I don't know that to be true. I'm just giving that as an example. But maybe 2 months from now, it's images, selfies, pictures of yourself, which is actually doing really well right now as well. It's always going to be changing. It's always going to be evolving. And I think it's great to have all these things in your tool belt so you can pull from them at any
Yeah, that's
moment.
true.
Yeah.
That's nice. So a lot of people are camera shy. Even I was actually very camera shy when I started to podcast. So how do you think that we should actually get away from that, or how can we actually be confident on camera? Are there any tips?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of tips. Number one, know that no one is going to see your first video, or
Yeah.
it's not going to be the entire world. A very small percentage of people are going to even see it. You can delete it if you want. it's your content. I think we forget that we own this content. What we put out there, it's like we own a TV network and we are deciding what TV shows are being put on that TV network.
Yeah.
We have choice. We forget that. And so we say, well, I have to put this video up because I filmed it and I took 9 takes to finally get one that I didn't hate. And then now I have to upload it. No, you don't. You really don't have to. If you hate it that much and it's something that makes you feel bad, film again the next day. I guarantee you'll feel better because you already gave all that practice the day before. And I'll give you a really short story. One of the first times I filmed like a bunch, like I did a batch recording session, I kept critiquing the way I would say something or oh this part didn't come out right, and I did so many takes that I was just exhausted. Plus you've got your ring light on you, the room is now hot, like it's just so stressful. And I said, you know what? I got 4 out of the 8 done. I'll do the other 4 tomorrow. And I came back the next day and I did it so fast because I had already put all that effort in the day before. And it was like I just needed a clean slate. I needed to sleep on it and then come back the next day and film them.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's that. Camera shy. I know there's that freeze moment where we hit record and it's like, I don't even know the words to say. That's where preparing and having not necessarily a script, but talking points. You can envision someone on the other side of the camera that you trust, like a friend, or you can get on a Zoom chat just like this and record it because only the highlights are going to be clipped from that. You're not going to use the entire, footage. For a podcast you would, but for something like this where you're just experimenting, maybe you're trying to get some clips for yourself, you would just clip the highlights, the parts where you do sound great and the parts that you do like. And if you do that with a trusted friend or coworker, I think that's a wonderful thing to do
Yeah.
to get over camera shyness.
That's amazing. So,
Mhm.
do you think that videos are only for LinkedIn feed only, or can you actually send videos on DMs as well? Because right now, whenever we're doing cold DMs, for example, so it's always text based, and we usually get ignored as well. So, do you have you ever tried that? Sending videos on DMs, and do you recommend that?
Mhm. I have, but I wait until I know the person a little bit more. I think that people are going to be a little hesitant to open a
Yeah.
video from someone they haven't met yet. So text is, there's not an expectation with text. So if you send a text to somebody, a text DM, and you haven't actually met the person, or maybe even they've commented on something of yours, so it's slightly warm, that's fine via text because there's no expectation for them to write back. You're just saying something. They may even just hit the heart reaction or the happy face reaction and move on with their day. If you've started to have a conversation, I think it's perfectly okay to do something like that. But just know that it feels like on the receiving end, it feels like, oh my gosh, do I have to send a video back to them or an audio response back to them? And so it does feel like people feel the burden to respond in a certain way or watch the whole thing. Some people don't like it, but you won't know that. You kind of are just writing to people not knowing who has that preference or who doesn't. You can absolutely make it part of your strategy, but I would just make sure that it's with people you have a more warm connection
Yeah.
with.
That's right. So how much amount of video should we actually post? For example, if there's a content creator who's posting 12 times a month, and they have a mix of text carousels as well and images as well. So what percentage of that content should be videos?
Yeah, I always aim for like a third video, a third text
Okay.
only, a third picture. So yeah, I talk about video all the time. I do not do only video because I need to have variety in my strategy. I also need to have variety in my life. And if I did video only, I would be filming videos all day long, every day. And I don't want to do that. I want to go, yeah, aim for a third, a third, a third. I think that's great. And like with image, it could be any sort of image. That could even be carousel. That could be infographics. And if you find one that you gravitate towards more, do more of that and sort of change the levels, the ratios of how you're, what type of content you're putting out there. But yeah, I would say it's more about being consistent, like consistently showing your face, which doesn't mean frequent. You could post a video every single day and it's just fluff and you're not saying anything and you're not providing really trust or any insight into what you do. And therefore, you're just kind of wasting all that energy. Or you could post a video once every 2 weeks and the message and the feeling that you give people is consistent every time and people feel like they know you. And that's a much greater win.
Yeah, I agree with that. So if someone wants to stand out in all of this content, because there's a lot of content clutter on LinkedIn, everyone is posting now. So how can we actually stand out with video content? What thing we should do differently as compared to others?
Yeah, I think stories are automatically going to make you stand out because it's your stories, it's
Yeah,
your experience. And I think the way you say it too, going back to hooks and things like that, if you're the way you say something, I would try to almost like you're talking to a friend or a close coworker. People still are talking on LinkedIn like they're in a boardroom and it's super unengaging. So if you can sound like a real human, you're gonna capture more attention. You're gonna capture more hearts because people are gonna say, "Oh my gosh, me too. I felt this exact same thing." And I think
yeah,
that's the goal. That's what you want. Especially if you're in a capacity where you teach something or maybe you're a service-based business, you want people to get to know you and you want
yeah,
them to feel like, "Oh, this person understands me." And so stories stand out because they're yours, they're your stories. I know there's a friend of mine on LinkedIn who does walk and talk videos, and he just talks about what happened that week, what new deals he got, what experiences he had, what setbacks he had, and he doesn't hold any of it back. And he puts little clips of him, it's him walking and talking at the same time, but occasionally he'll put little B-roll clips in there as well. And I think that adds so much personality.
yeah,
It's not needed if you're brand new. That's going to be a lot of work for you. But I do think that it definitely stands out. That's very him. You can't mistake it. You could
yeah.
see the video without hearing his voice and you would know that was his video.
That's amazing. So, what tip will you
Hmm.
give to someone who's actually starting off their personal brand? Because I started my personal brand with a video of like a trailer of my podcast. So, do you
Oh.
actually recommend doing that? Like when someone is starting off completely newly and they have a new account on LinkedIn. So, should they start off with video or should they, start off with, warming up their account, doing text-based and carousels? So, what do you recommend?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one because you could do video if you're already comfortable with it. I think that's a lot for someone who's brand new, though. I think easing into it is always a good strategy. I think when you go hard and fast on anything, you're going to burn out quickly, especially if you happen to get a really good reaction from that very first video. You're going to assume that now I have to make video all the time. And again, you don't have to make video all the time. It's not an everyday thing for sure. So I would say warming up would involve if you want to do video, you can warm up in smaller types of video segments. You could do a little time lapse of you working in your office, put a little text over it if you want. And that's a much easier video to do than saying, "Hey, I'm brand new here." Again, if you want to do that, totally fine. But I think warming up and easing into it seems like a better strategy. You're also getting to know people. If you have no audience and you post a video, you might be let down that it's not really getting any traction. So it can also have the opposite effect. Yeah, and a lot of people will recommend just staying in the comments for a while just to get to know people and build your audience.
Yeah,
And I think that's a great strategy too. You really don't even have to post immediately when you first start.
true. That's true. So you talked about burnout as
Yeah.
well, So when it comes to video content, especially, I think burnout happens more quickly because you're on camera. So how do you actually deal with burnout when it comes to LinkedIn, especially?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I think we all experience at some point, and then we try to roll it back. Like, what was the problem? How do I fix it? So I think batching content is huge. I have 1 or 2 days per week that I work on content exclusively. So, or I pick up certain part of the day. So, for example, on Fridays, I know I'm really good at writing. I think because it's towards the end of the week and I'm feeling happy and optimistic about the weekend, and I'm trying to prepare and wrap up things for the following week. So I'll do writing on a Friday because I know that that works. I'll come around to the next week, and about midweek, maybe Wednesday, I'll start doing any of the graphics or any of the sort of visuals for any of those posts because that's the finishing touches. If I don't happen to get to that, at least I have the written portion done that I did the previous Friday. We're good. And so putting it on a system like that, I think helps tremendously. I think with video, definitely setting aside time to record multiple videos at once is great. If it's like B-roll footage that you're doing and you're not actually talking to the camera, you can batch that and build a library and pull from that library over and over and over. No one is going to call you out for using footage two times, three times, five times. You're perfectly free to keep using that footage, and that's definitely a way to make it repeatable and not feel like you have to start from scratch every single time.
That's right. So how do you actually get topics out, especially for different founders? How do you identify the topics that people should be talking about when it comes to specifically video content?
hmm Yeah, yeah, that's great. I think I kind of put things in three buckets. Something that's actionable that you can teach someone that can be done pretty immediately, like make it small and quick enough, easy enough that people can implement immediately. I have it's awareness. So like just simple awareness of a problem. Like, hey, getting on video actually isn't too hard. Like this is a great way to do it. Something like that where maybe they aren't aware of a problem or they think there's a problem and I'm just changing that awareness. And then there's ability, which is you actually are capable of this. Let me show you how. And you don't have to use those buckets. Those are just ones that I learned and that work for me and seem to stand the test of time. But yeah, putting things in buckets like that where you're teaching, you're inspiring or motivating, and you're bringing awareness to something and putting those in those buckets, maybe leaning towards one more than others, depending on what your offer is. If you're an educational or a service based, you might want to do more action oriented because you're showing what you are capable of and maybe what your offer or your service includes. But again, just like before, maybe it's like a third, a third, a third, but then you lean more towards one of those pieces of content or buckets of content.
That's amazing. So a lot of people, they actually do not like editing videos. So are there any specific tips that you have or tools that you use for video editing?
hmm Yeah, I am one of those people. I don't like editing either. It's not fun. It can be fun if you're doing it for the algorithm and wondering, how it's going to perform. You're going to start overthinking. And then the worst part is you have to hear your voice over and over and over as you record or as you're editing. So you're so tired of the video by the time you post it that you really need quick tools or outside help. So you could hire video editors. It just takes more time, money, obviously. Maybe if you're a little bit more progressed in your content strategy and you want to do that, I do that for some of my videos, but I'm not just starting out anymore. If you're just starting out, you could use Instagram Reels, CapCut, you can use Descript, you can use Riverside if it's a chat. There's so many tools out there that have a lot of built-in AI functionality too that keeps it really fast. So and AI could just be as simple as transcript or transcribing what you said and then making captions out of it. That's AI. Like that's a very simple way to where you don't have to type out what you said. It just pops up and it's great. Um, I think that's good. I would just urge people to not even worry too much about editing in the beginning because it's more about showing your face. And I think because there's so many options with editing, we want to make it the best and the most polished. And I think it's just so easy to fall into that trap. And then we end up either disliking the video because we edited it, or we don't end up posting it at all.
Yeah, that's true. So this brings us at the end of the podcast, Sarah, and it was wonderful having you. At the end, would you like to give any advice and message out to our audiences, especially for people who actually want to make videos online?
Yeah, making video online is easier than it's ever been. There's so many options, so many tools. If you are creating for LinkedIn, just know that it's a very supportive audience. If you find your people, they're going to support you, even just with a very short video, even with a video that you're not sure of, somebody's going to be cheering you on.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about LinkedIn. But in general, just online, creating videos, you used to have to be a videographer. You don't have to be a videographer anymore. You can easily film things with your phone, which we all most likely have, and it just makes it so much easier to get the word out and really just share what your business is and what makes you special, what makes you unique, and what you share with the world.
Thank you. Thank you. It was amazing having you. Hope you enjoyed as well.
Thank you.